Yo guys, what's going on? Monday at 6 here, back with the 1995 Pontiac Firebird, and today we're going to be installing this dash cluster. Some of the gauges don't work on here, especially the odometer and the trip. They have stopped working in the Firebird, so I'm going to replace it with this nice replacement that I picked up from F-BODYCENTRAL on eBay. He has 100% positive feedback on there, quick response, tons of hard to find items. I have some parts in the trunk that I'll show you here that I ordered, and we'll be doing install videos here on the Firebird. But hope you guys enjoy this. Gonna go ahead and swap this out so I can get my trip and odometer working. All right, hope you guys enjoy. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these parts here. We have the steering wheel. It is in excellent shape. The leather's still soft on it. It's going to be a great replacement for the one I have in here where the steering wheel was all cracked and dry rotted. The buttons are all chipped off, so I can't wait to install that. Got some OEM key fobs here. Not sure if my Firebird has the programming for it, but we have these OEM fobs here just to see if we can get programming going on here. Of course, the dash cluster right there, it's going to be a great replacement, going to get all of our gauges working. Have these sun visors, which are extremely hard to find, in great shape. Look on the F-BODYCENTRAL eBay page, see if they have them for your vehicle. And we have these T-top sunshades right here. These are another rare item, hard to find. If you don't want the Florida sun baking the interior of your car, especially if you have T-tops, just go ahead and install these, and they will keep the sun from cooking the interior of your car or cooking your head when it's super hot outside. But these are some of the additional items I picked up and will be installing on the Firebird. So thank you very much, F-BODYCENTRAL. Check them out. Be a link down below in the description. Here we are inside the 1995 Firebird, and here's the gauge cluster. As you can tell, it's heavily worn out. It's definitely, the lens has been scratched on it a bunch. Some of these gauges don't work in here, especially the trip. It's at 0000. The trip button was probably pressed, and the gears inside are broken, dry rot, old, cracked, but it doesn't work. So we're going to change it out with this beautiful gauge cluster here. You can tell all the colors just are a lot more vibrant. This has definitely been out in the weather. It's been in the Florida sun, just definitely taking its toll on it, but we want all the gauges working. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start off and remove this bezel around the gauge. Let's just go ahead, get it popped off. There are no physical screws that hold this bezel on, just retention clips. You can take this bezel off by simply just pulling it off, like that. If you have a fog light, go ahead and disconnect the switch here. Okay, once you get this bezel up, just come right out of the way. Right here is going to be your connector. You can just go ahead and disconnect this, and it'll free this bezel from the fog light switch. Okay, we have the bezel off. The fog light switch is disconnected. Just go ahead and set that out of the way. Now that we have the bezel out of the way here, it'll give us access to our 4 screws that are holding the gauge cluster on. Here's 1, here's 2, there's 3, and on this side, here is 4. Let's go ahead and grab a socket with an extension, ratchet, get those 4 bolts removed. Got my ratchet with a couple extensions. Let's start taking it off. Take all 4 bolts out. We have the 4 screws removed out of the gauge cluster. Here we are with the new one. You can see on the back, it's just one connection here to get all the readouts for that gauge cluster. So with the one that's in here, you're just going to want to give a firm pull out like that. Just pull it kind of straight out so you don't bend that one connector on the back. And tilt the gauge cluster towards you. A little finesse. Oh, just be a little more careful than that with your new one. But the old one is removed. Okay, here's a good opportunity if you haven't had a chance to clean back here yet. You can see there's just sand and dust back here. I'm just going to grab a rag real quick and clean this up before I install the new cluster. Took that rag, cleaned it up, looking good. Let's go ahead and get ready to install that gauge cluster. Okay, I'm going to try to do this with one hand, but this is how you want to reinstall the cluster. You can see it's past the ignition and the steering wheel tilt button, but once you get it past right here, you can see there's a cutout here and a cutout right here that this gauge just simply goes in here. Oh, like this, pull the steering wheel down a little bit more. Just like that. Okay, once you get it in here, you just want to make sure all your screw holes are aligned. Once you get that aligned over here and over here, you can simply just push it in. You can tell that the cluster is seated on that electrical connection on the back. Man, that gauge cluster looks so much better. But I'm going to take the ignition key here, just make sure we power on before we bolt everything up. You can see here, we got all our lights, we got power to the cluster. Looking good. Let's go ahead and take those 4 bolts and get this cluster secure. Got 1, 2, 3, and 4 screws. Got them in. Let's just go ahead and tighten them up. Cluster is secure. Let's go ahead and put our bezel back on. Don't forget, if you have fog lights, make sure to plug in that connector. We have the bezel back on. We have the fog light switch plugged in. Man, this instrument cluster looks awesome. This looks way better than what was in here. Just the orange dial gauges on here, they are a lot just brighter in color. The white's whiter. The red is actually red in here. 77,000 miles on here. This cluster is looking awesome. All right, let's go ahead and get this fired up. Looks like all the gauges are working as they should. Let's go ahead and drive this around and get some miles on that trip odometer. Let's see how well it works. Here we go. She's rolling her first one on that trip gauge. First time having a working trip in odometer. Look at that. Beautiful. Look at that. We're hitting 3, 4, coming up. This is so cool having a working trip gauge and odometer. Definitely I needed repair in the Firebird. Cluster gauge is working good. It looks beautiful. All the gauges are working. Completely happy with it. Looks way better than the one I just took out. Still have a lot of interior pieces and a lot of parts I gotta fix, like AC vents, little clips here and there, shifter boot stuff. The steering wheel on here definitely needs to be replaced. That's what I showed you earlier. But yeah, if you want some parts for your 4th gen Firebird Camaro Firehawk Trans Am, go ahead and look up F-BODYCENTRAL on eBay. I will put a link down in the description if you are looking for parts. But as always, appreciate you guys watching. Monday to 6, out.